Wishing all my viewers a very happy and prosperous New Year. May 2012 be filled with joyous moments and memories for years to come. Today's recipe is a breakfast traditionally served at special occasions and especially at New Year to mark the beginning of a new moment, and that is Kiri. It's easy to make and requires very few ingredients. So let's get to it. I have here a long grain rice, and I am making 2 cups of long grain rice. I have washed the rice several times to take out any of the starch and just to clean it up in several changes of water until the water runs clear, and I have let it dry a little bit, and this is coconut powder, and I have here 1 tablespoon, and I will be using more of it a little later, so I'll show you that. And just some water, and I am going to be using a non-stick pot today. It just makes it easier so that the rice does not stick. If you do not have a non-stick pot that's big enough to hold the rice that you're making, just make sure that you're using a heavy bottom pot so that it won't be sticking to the bottom when you're cooking the rice. And that's it, so let's get started. Okay, so now first to the coconut powder, what I'm going to do is add some water, and my water is lukewarm, and that's just to help the coconut powder from not forming the clumps when I mix it in with the water. So just get my whisk out. And I tend to add just a little bit of water, make a thick paste. I don't know if you can see that. Break all the clumps. And then I'm going to add about 2 cups of water. So for 2 cups of rice, I should have enough water to cover the rice and a little more. And I usually use my finger as a guide, so the water level should come up to the first line on your finger, and that sort of works well for me. Okay, so set your heat to medium, and on a dial of 10 I usually just set it to about 8, between 8 and 7 and 8, and that's the high end of the medium, and that's just so that I can bring the rice to the water to a boil quickly. So put my rice in, and everybody else is asleep right now, so I am kind of filming this while I'm doing it, so just bear with me, please. Alright, and I'm also going to put in my coconut milk. And okay, so the reason I used only 1 tablespoon of the coconut milk is so that it's to mimic the second milk that you would get from fresh coconut. So I'm just gonna let the pot heat up and the rice come to a boil, and as soon as it starts to boil, we're going to drop down the heat and give it a stir, and I will add salt sort of towards the end when the rice is parboiled. So until then you just have to be a little patient. So while the rice is boiling, I am just going to go ahead and prepare the cream of the coconut milk. And the way I do that is I use 1 tablespoon of coconut powder. I'm using the same bowl that I had the milk in. It's just so I don't have to wash too many things. Okay, so that was 1 tablespoon. And I'm going to use very little water just to make a paste again, the same thing. Okay, so you'll see it's a much thicker consistency of the milk. And I'm just going to add a little more. This would probably be like a 1/4 cup altogether of water. It's very, very, I don't know if you can see that, but it's very, very little, probably 5 tablespoons. Now you can see that the rice has started to boil. The bubbles form on top, so just give it a stir. And that's just like you would do for pasta. So now the water is starting to go down and the rice is not yet cooked, so I'm just going to add a little more water. And I like to do this gradually rather than add all of the water in the beginning, just because I want a thick consistency. The rice should be overcooked. Okay, so now the rice is halfway boiled, and I'm going to add in just a little bit of salt. And this would be salt to taste. But you have to remember that the flavor intensifies, so not too much of the salt. You can adjust it right at the end if need be. I forgot to mention that once the water started to boil initially, you have to drop the temperature down to a low medium, which is on my dial between 5 and 6. Okay, so now the rice has cooked and it's got very thick, and you want it like that. I'm just going to get it a little bit thicker, and you'll see that the rice has become sort of mushy, overcooked. And just going to give it a minute or so here to get it nice and thick. If you are not using a non-stick pan, please remember to continuously stir so that it doesn't stick to the bottom, because rice does get very starchy and tends to stick on the bottom. Okay, so now the rice is the consistency that I want. It's pretty thick, right? You see that? And this is the time to taste and make sure that you have enough salt in there to make it a little savory. And so now I'm adding the cream of the coconut milk that we had put aside.
Mama?
Give that a good stir.
Mama?
Okay.
Mama?
And it's ready to dish out. I'll show you that in just a moment. Okay, so I've taken the stove, the pot off the stove now, and I have here a flat dish. If you can get like a really big flat plate, that works well too. I have this, and this is what I regularly use for Kiri. So now I'm just going to take all of the rice and dump it in to the middle. There's no pretty way to do this, just dump it in. Okay. Okay, so once you get all of the Kiri Baath in there, just flatten it with your spoon, the back of your spoon.
I flattened it.
Okay, and you're going to try and make it as flat as possible. And if you were doing this on the plate, you'd spread it out to the edge of the plate, leaving just a small edge. Okay, so once it's all flattened out, I'm using just a steel, spoon, and if you can dip it into cold water, and that's to just prevent the rice from sticking. And then you'd make sort of a, this is just very common in Kiri Baath, that you do a small, I don't know if you can see that, a small edge, just to flatten it out. There, you can see that. That's just to make it pretty. That's what it is. And you will have to cut it only after it's cooled, because right now if I try to cut it, it's just going to mess it up. So with cold water, just smooth it out. Okay, so now once it's cooled, not completely, it's still a little warm to the touch. I can't wait long because my little one is hungry and he wants to eat. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to cut it. I just dipped my butter knife into cold water and start off with making some lines, and you can make the pieces as big as you want, or I'm just going to make 4 lines here, or 3. Okay, 3. And then if you turn it on sort of like a, not 90 degrees, but sort of halfway, 45 I guess, and then start making diagonal cuts and get these nice pretty diamond shapes in your rice. And this is a small portion, just trying to get here, and there you can see the diamond shapes, and that is ready to serve. And usually you can serve it with Katta Sambol or Lunu Miris, which is an onion sambal that I will show in another video. Thank you for watching today's episode on Sunnylanka, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please try it and let me know any of your comments, suggestions, if you have any questions. And thank you once again for your support and subscription, and I wish you a very happy and prosperous 2012.